Hi, and welcome to Communication Campus. I am Dr. Malynnda Stewart, and in this series, we are going to explore the world of communication theory. Now, whether you are a seasoned grad student or someone stepping into theory for the very first time, I hope that you will make this your intellectual home. Today's focus is all about how we create messages, what exactly theory is, and how different metaphors can help us make sense of theories themselves. Let's dig in. All right, so every time we talk, post, text, or even gesture, we're not just sending information, we're actually creating meaning. Communication isn't passive in any way. It's very active and it's a constructed process. Now, this idea comes from a constructionist perspective, meaning that it doesn't exist in messages themselves. Now, let me say this. Now, this idea comes from what is known as a constructivist perspective. In other words, meaning doesn't exist in the message themselves. It is created by people in context. And this was started by Pierce and Cohen in 1980. Now, when we think about it, when you say, fine, it could mean I'm okay, or it could mean definitely not okay. It really depends on the tone, the relationship, and the situation. So here's your quiz. The way that I just said fine, would you believe me? I'm fine. Now, hopefully you're picking up on the timing, the eye roll, the tone. All of those things should indicate by the meaning and the context and the way that I'm saying it that I'm really not fine. However, if I were to say, yeah, I'm fine, the tone of my voice, the way that I'm looking at you directly, that might indicate, yep, I really am fine. So here, we want to think about how this use of the word fine is transmitted. How is it shared to that other person? And this is a big thing within communication, this transmission versus the transaction. Now, the transmission model sees communication as a pipeline. One person sends the message to another, and then they give that information back. Now, in modern theories, especially symbolic interactionism, these theories stress the meaning is negotiated. It's co-constructed. It's not just the meaning that I put into it, but your interpretation of what it is that I'm saying is part of this process. So when we say we create messages, we mean that we're not just vehicles of information, but it's actually sites of meaning making, where we reflect our identities, our relationships, even power structures through the ways that we communicate. So it's not just saying words, it's a whole lot more. And this is why communication gets so complicated and why it's so misunderstood so often. So what's a theory, right? We've talked about this idea of meaning making. Let's get into what theories actually are. So if we create messages, what helps us understand how we do that? Well, that's where theories come in. A theory is a framework that helps us make sense of complex communication processes. According to Littlejohn and Foss in 2021, a theory is a systematic set of informed hunches about the ways things work. So let's break that down. Systematic means that it's organized, but it's not just random thoughts. Informed means that it's based on prior knowledge. It's based on research. It's based on observation. But it's not based on just one observation. It's based on a lot of observations. And hunches? Well, that means theories aren't the final answers. really, they're starting places. We look at the world and we try and answer what's going on, and these ideas that we create start to add up, and then we get theories, and we continue to test those theories over time, and eventually we start realizing that this theory is pretty legit. So theories aren't static truths. This is something that I want to make sure that we understand. These evolve. Just as people evolve, just as different contexts have different impacts on our words, these theories are going to change and evolve as well. Now, theories need to help us do three things in particular. First, they help us explain communication behavior, right? That's the whole goal, is that they are trying to help us explain what are we doing and what are we seeing. Number two, they predict outcomes. Because we have seen so many times a specific set of observations, we then are able to use that theory to predict what a person is likely to do. Now, are they flawless? No, of course not. People are people, and people do weird things. And so it's not a hard and fast rule that theories are always going to predict A plus B is always going to end with C. But they do guide us in the decisions and application settings. So that's our third thing with theories. They're going to guide us. They give us good ideas of what we can expect to happen. So for example, the uncertainty reduction theory, Berger and Calabrese in 1975, help us understand why we ask certain questions when we meet someone new. Expectancy violations theory, Burgoon, 1978, helps us explain how we react when people surprise us, like standing too close or texting way too much. So all of these things, and we have a lot of theories. And the big thing with this series is that we're going to go into each and every one of the communication theories and dive in a little bit and give you a good understanding and foundation of what these theories are saying, what are they helping us predict, and how might they guide us in the application. That's really important to me, that you not only learn what the theories are and what they say, but I want to really help you figure out what you can do with them. What do these theories help us have in an applied manner? That's my favorite part of learning theories, is thinking about how they can be applied. So thinking about this application, I love metaphors. Metaphors are my jam. And to help understand theories themselves, scholars like me often use metaphors, and these are images to make abstract ideas a little bit more relatable. So let's think about a few of them. One, people think about metaphors and theories as lenses. Theories can be a lens. They can act by highlighting some things or blurring others. Now, obviously, I wear glasses. So if you too have ever gone to an eye doctor and they put the funny thing in front of you and they say, is A or B, 1 or 2? And this mechanism flips the different lenses around and it makes things either clearer or blurrier. Well, lenses do that. So do theories. Sometimes theories are applied in such a way that you're like, oh my gosh, this makes so much more sense now. And other times you use a theory and you're like, what the heck is that? Now my life does not make any sense whatsoever. Well, welcome to theories. So for example, the feminist theory lens reveals how gender power dynamics shape our communication. And media ecology lenses focus on how technologies shape human interaction. And either one of these theories could really mess up the way that you see the world if you hadn't thought about power dynamics and who has the power and how is that power used. Once you open up that box, You see the world in a different light. So sometimes these theories can mess up your vision of how you see the world. Now, theories are also like maps. They aren't really a territory, but they help you navigate the world around you. They simplify the landscape so that we can find our way. But remember, they can't show us everything, and the terrain is always going to get a little bit different depending on where you are. But that's why there's multiple theories in existence to help us understand the same phenomenon. Craig in 1999 talks about theories as nets. And this is honestly one of my favorites because he describes theories as we throw over the world, catching meaning. But like nets, no theory catches everything. We have to choose which net is going to be right for the job. And sometimes the nets have big holes because we're looking at big ideas. And other times we need a net with much tighter holes because we want to look into something far more refined and small. Now, metaphors remind us that theories are not just answers. They are tools for asking better, more targeted questions. I really want you to think about that as you're working and learning about these theories. How do these theories guide what questions I'm asking and also how I interpret the answers that I'm getting? Now, I am big into this idea of how we interpret the world around us, and we're going to get into that in another session. So today we covered 3 big ideas. The first, we don't just send messages, we create them. It's not just the words that we say, but it's also how we say it, who we say it to, when did we say it, and what context did we say it. So there's so much more going on than just the words that came out of our mouths. Secondly, we understood that theories help us understand, predict, and guide our communication. It helps us see the world in a different way and helps us predict and kind of understand what we might expect, and it should guide what we say and how we move forward. And lastly, we talked about metaphors and how they help us grasp what theories do and how they work. Now, in our next episode, we're going to explore epistemology. How do we know what we know and how it shapes different types of communication theories? I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. And as you will hear me say in every single episode, keep communicating. Take care.